Okay. All righty, so I believe we are recording. So once again, thank you. Would like to take a moment to introduce Scott Severite, Grace Johnson, and Carl Smith. They are going to talk today about the Agile20Reflect Festival and all of their musings through their 20 years of learning. So please go ahead and take it away. Great to have you here.
Okay, so we've got we're gonna share the presenting a little bit. So yeah, Carl was going to do the welcome. Yeah, I don't know if you got that. Did you get this spreadsheet?
No, of course not.
Okay, so Carl was going to open up because he's a much better speaker than me.
You just called me a much better blagger, but thank you. So I think we need to really think about where we've come from to understand why we did this. A lot of the time people look at Agile and go, it's arrived and fully formed, but actually where it came from was the utter chaos of the 90s. The reason that we wanted to do a reflection or a retrospective after 20 years was, we know that it has evolved, and we know that firstly, it's not owned by the West anymore. It's not owned by America. It's something that has become global. And we wanted to respect the fact that Agile itself is becoming something else, but also not predefine what that would be. So the festival was very much about inclusion. It was about the opportunity to learn from each other, and also to follow the lines of the other great organizations of the day, which is to have a festival without owning any events, and actually diversify fully into the world. Is that okay, Scott?
That's perfect. Yeah. I'm going to admit someone here, and there we go. And Grace, you were going to take this through what we're going to be doing today.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, everyone. My name is Grace Johnson, and I'm speaking from Nigeria. We're going to be covering introductions and why the festival, the Agile20Reflect Festival, why we decided to do the festival, the vision behind the festival, our principles that saw us through the festival experience, and our community policy. And then we'll talk about our global community. We'll talk about the program and how we ended up having over 800 events. We'll talk about the technology and infrastructure, and the best person to talk about it is here as well. We will tell you some of our numbers, the statistics that came out of the festival, and then the success stories, and then what next, and then we'll later have a question and answer session. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I changed my context there. Let's get the slides back up. Okay, so I wanted to do a little bit of introduction of the people that are on the call here. There's actually 4 people on the call. I see Craig's here. When we get to the first slide, Craig was the first person, Craig Coburn, who we kind of talked about having a festival. He was first follower, so really excited first followers here. I think Gail was around about 170th follower. It was really nice to meet Gail. But I want to talk about these 2 special people here. So one of the things that we did was we did a general call out for people to help, and out of that I used my own network, because anything you do, your network is a really powerful thing. Your network is your net worth. But I also put a general call out through all of the Agile organizations to say, I think we should do something. And so Grace Johnson contacted me and said, we had a mutual friend, Martin Hinchelwood, who's an Agile trainer, does a lot of work with Microsoft, and you'll have seen him from the Kanban side. So I'm sure some of you have met Martin. And so Grace and I talked, and I tried to explain to her that we were going to be doing something for the retrospective. I wasn't sure what it was, and I wanted to do something that got people involved across the world, but I wasn't sure what that was. And would you like to help? So on that job description, I want to do something, but I don't know what it is, and I would like you to help, but I'm not sure what I want you to do. Grace said yes. So that's Grace Johnson. So Grace was at the start of her Agile journey. She's really progressed so much in that. With she came from a project management background, so her agility is very much linked into some of the the eco building things, and also the the APM. And you're very happy to get Scott Ambler and Grace together to help and to look at how we can do things in Africa. So through the festival and through being involved in the festival and through meeting more people in the network, she's done an amazing job. She set up an entire ambassador network. I kind of likened it to I appointed her as Secretary of State, and she established an ambassador network around the world. It's it's a huge thing. The amount of work that I didn't have to do in setting this up because Grace did it was just amazing. And on the people side and the smoothing out the cultural stuff, Grace did an amazing job, and she'll talk about those things as we go through. Carl and I are old friends. Carl and I worked in a very large financial transformation, and so Carl was part of my network. I at the time when the idea had kind of taken off from where Craig had started it, Craig and I, and then Grace came along and started scaling it globally, and then we were reaching a point there where everything we were doing, technology wasn't really working well enough, and Carl, silly man that he is, phoned me up and said he was writing a book and would I like to contribute to it, and I said way too busy to write a book, but I'm doing a festival. Would you like to help me with it? So Carl, who's who's a kind of technologist, started off in an art school, got tons of design background to him, tons of agile transformation, real large scale, big organization stuff. I think he's got some of his early design stuff that's still going. He's got millions of followers. So, is your head? Are you blushing yet, Carl?
Yeah, it is expanding. Thank you, Scott.
So really excited today to be here with a new friend, Grace, who I met this year, and an old friend, Carl, who I managed to con into to help me with this. And I'm Scott. I'm just an ordinary Agilist from Scotland, and that's me. So onwards and upwards. I'm going to do a little bit of introduction because I've got the first part of the story. So why? There's a few reasons why. One of the reasons is I've got a very good friend who was involved in SAFE, and at the time there was a lot of stress and peer pressure not to be involved in SAFE, and Martin got a lot of a lot of backlash for what he did. He was one of the original organisers in Scotland in the Agile movement, but it was tense. It was very difficult to in that entire setup. And Martin died. And he died suddenly of a heart attack. Really a close friend, someone who I organised a meetup with. To have that was really a bit of a setback. And because we ran meetups, because I know lots of people in the industry and I've been at lots of conferences. 1 year after Martin had died, that was the 19th of May last year. We ran an online thing, and we ran it online because we were into COVID. And it was difficult because we couldn't go down the pub and we couldn't meet and we couldn't remember Martin that way. And at that session, I remember I had the SAFE people in one room and the Agilists in the other room. And something kind of came over me saying, we need to do something to pull people together. We need to get more interaction. As the year went on and we did more and more things online, and people were tired and people were in hibernation and all the conferences were cancelled. And that's when Craig and I think we've been at Lean Agile Global, and the day after we'd mentioned something about the 10th anniversary, and Craig pointed out that the 20th was coming up and we should maybe do something in the UK. And I ran with it and said, look, let's do something for the world. We're all online, we're all together. Let's try and do something as well to get bring new people together into Agile. And at the same time, I was noticing more and more older people in Agile were getting turned off, or they were kind of seeing the original Agile from 20 years ago had been in their minds perhaps corrupted. Agile was going into business. Agile was going into lots of places. You know, it wasn't about software. Yeah. So that was us. At the first event, we went out there and we kind of came up with some KPIs. We wanted people in Africa to come, and we wanted people in South America to come, and we wanted women to come, and so even in our first vision that Craig and I put together for this chat, we had all that inclusion things. Craig, do you want to say something as you're on the call? Because I feel I feel if you'd said no at this point, nothing would have happened.
Well, I was just commenting there about how it all sort of changed. I mean, it was like, you know.
Okay, I hear you, Craig.
Oh, can you not hear me?
I can hear you.
It was yeah. So the original idea, I think, was just, oh yeah, let's just have one event, and it pivoted and pivoted and pivoted. But the essence and the principles, as we put in this sort of early deck, were just really important. Carl says he can hear me, so it was just really interesting how we embodied those principles, and you know, went for diversity and inclusion and bringing people together from wherever they were, rather than just the sort of white man focus that you know, often the community is labelled with, and really just seeing people's different experiences from all over the world was kind of key. So, and turning it as well away from a conference, and you've got to submit papers and go through a process, to a festival like the Edinburgh Festival, where it was kind of like we were providing a platform, provided you adhere to the code of conduct, and it was a different type of approach altogether. But you know, huge kudos to Scott for kind of steering it really, and putting in the work to make it happen the way it did.
Cool. All right. So that was the vision. The vision started big. Let's get everyone together, and everyone meant everyone. So some people came in to organize. They said, "We'll come in as long as the safe people aren't there." We said, "Well, no." Everybody means everybody. Yeah. Some people came in with a little bit of imposter syndrome. So it was like, you know, we haven't been in Agile long enough to be part of the festival. And I'm like, no, don't be silly. It's not about that thing. You know, the entry point's Agile. Come and talk about that. And I think that variety approach, that kind of everyone involved thing, you know, really talks to what we're trying to do in the Agile movement as well. Yeah, the vision, you know, it was just as we said, it's a simple idea. Come, be creative, share your passion, and with our World Community Party. How I likened it and how I explained it to a lot of the community leaders was that you know, everything we were doing was a bit like, I don't know if anyone's been to university, but when I went to university, when you matriculated, all of the clubs and societies tried to grab you, and they would all be in the big gymnasium, and there'd be you know, the fencing club. I think I lasted 2 sessions in there. The debating club, and as you go around, there's all the different clubs. And what I invited everyone to do was to come into the hall and set their stall up, but you know, please don't go around kicking anyone else's stall over. You know, it's all about setting your stall out. And some of those stalls were huge. You know, we had 1,000 people stalls, and some of those stalls were small, and we had 3 people in. Some of them were completely diverse, but they were all in the hall. They were all together. They were all equal, and anyone, you know, it was kind of, you know, being customer led. Anyone could go to anything, and it was all free, you know, for complete access. Okay, and yeah. So I think I'm going to hand over to Carl now for the guiding principles, and these are visual and they're quite nice.
Okay, so just move on to the next slide. So that the Scott actually got a guy called Stuart Young, and I learned early on that it was good to actually reference him because he's done some fabulous work here. And the thing that we were trying to cut down on is being verbose. So what he did was created these images about the festival and about the way that people needed to be engaged and treated, which I think was quite essential in it. So obviously everyone's got their own favorite ones, but my favorite one is I have a story to share, because I think that there's a real thing here about there are VIPs in the world of Agile, and we should all cluster around them, but actually any Agilist who's done any work to help the working environment of business or technology people, I want to hear their story because it fills in my gaps in my knowledge. And I think that was a really strong thing that we got, that we had this concept of, I'm probably stealing across, but new voices. And that was, it's, I was involved with Craig in the red team. So there's one here that says community funded, spreading the word. We didn't want sponsors. And have you ever heard of anyone running a huge festival for anything related to professional skills that doesn't want sponsors? We didn't want sponsors. Why? Because it changes the emphasis. And what we wanted instead was to people to give funds if they were able. And I just think that the principles were really helpful and they guided our actions. And this is the thing that most people miss about principles, is that they read them once and then forget them. But all the way through what we were doing, I would point people back to the principles. Does it fit the principles? Are we meeting the intent of the principles, or are we trying to do something else?
And that's a great point. Even recently, on the website and the web group Access Agile, some people have been putting things up there that are for pay. And it's, when we had a discussion, it was like the shortest discussion we ever had, So it's a paid event, yeah. So does it meet our principles? No. Okay, delete it. it's
exactly.
Yeah.
We're focused on spreading knowledge about Agile across the world, making it free and accessible. And I think the word that comes up later is inclusion. And inclusion is not just locale, it's not geography, it's financials, it's disability, it's all kinds of different inclusion, it's women and men. And I think we just, in some way get over what we think is the way things should work and think about how it could work. Be more visionary.
Excellent. Let's talk about the festival experience, and Grace is going to take us through that.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Paul. The festival experience was, I don't think words can explain the experience, but it was, I think we met pretty much our goals, and included diversity and inclusion, which was at the heart of the festival. We wanted voices as Scott said, from all over the world as much as possible. Our first idea was to get ambassadors from every country as possible. If it was possible to get ambassadors from every country in the world, or from every region of the world, we wanted to hear those unique Agile stories. Probably the story you hear in the US or in the UK might be different from the Agile story you hear in Nepal or the Agile story you hear in Zambia. And so that was basically at the heart of the festival. We wanted an inclusive spirit. We wanted diverse voices. We wanted speakers, and we had a volunteer speaker directory. You could contact any speaker, be it VIPs, be it new voices from across the globe to come and speak at your event. I think that was really a brilliant idea, and the ambassadors and even people around, exploited the opportunity, and it was really great for the festival. We had volunteers, we had a Slack community, and our country regional ambassadors also formed volunteer teams within their regions and their countries to really facilitate the creation of events and setting them up. Okay, we also wanted to create a psychologically safe space through a robust community policy. We had an ethics committee that came up with the community policy, and it really helped the festival to, we had little trouble, we had little bad behavior, if there was any at all. I don't think there was any reported bad behavior. So we wanted our emphasis remained that respect remains the language that the world understands. We may be from different backgrounds, different religions, different ethnicity, but one thing is common with us all. We understand the language of respect. We also tried, we wanted a space where we could challenge assumptions, fix status quo. and, you know, create an avenue for people to really speak in a constructive manner and respectful manner. And so we had events where we had the big Agile organizations and me, you, anybody, Scott. I knew this was going to crack you up. And so anybody could just come up and, you know, challenge constructively and respectfully. And it was a beautiful dialogue. You know, there was this challenge about why don't you have many more women in leadership roles? And that was one of our, you know, our goals for the festival. We wanted more women in leadership roles, and we achieved that. We had quite a number of women lead circles within the festival. Our goal was also to have a number of women as ambassadors, country ambassadors and regional ambassadors, and we could have quite a number of times the trustee would ask, trustee board would always ask, how many women do we have as ambassadors? So, you know, it kept the ambassador network on its toes to make sure we had more women as ambassadors. And it would really blow your mind that we have so many women with, you know, top, you know, Agile qualification. They are really up there doing great things, and it was really satisfying, and, you know, it was really a delight for us to have more women participate. So, Scott, sorry, next slide.
Yeah, excellent. And this is the global community bit.
Yeah. Well, how did we create a global community? Scott and I first had the conversation, and he talked about having people from around the world, and I jokingly said, would you love to have people from Antarctica? Well, we succeeded in having people from 19 world regions. We had 140 countries participate. We had, you know, communication in 19 languages. That was really mind blowing. But first of all, how did we start? We sat down and we really put down a document as to why we really needed the ambassador network. Was it really necessary? Why do we want Agile all over the world? And like we said, Shelby and I said at the Women in Agile conference, we wanted to hear those unique stories. We wanted Agile. We love the transformative aspect of Agile. We see how Agile has moved into governance with what Scott Ambler is doing, Agile for federal government. We see Agile in education. We see Agile in so many sectors. And so that's really what we want to see. We want to see more people, new voices across the globe. We wanted to see diversity. And so we put that in a document to really give us direction as to what to do. We set up doing publicity and then recruiting. We set targets at several times. I remember, I will never forget, we had set a target of 10th November to get at least 50 ambassadors from across the globe. And yeah, boom, here comes 10th November, and we had over 50 ambassadors. We set up communications. You know, there were different modes of communications. We communicated with ambassadors, and we made sure we respected them all the way. We respected where they were coming from. We respected their experiences. We respected how they understood Agile. And then they came up with country events. They came up with regional events. We had companies do events. I stumbled on one event in Belgium, and it was one of the biggest banks in Europe, you know, telling their story of Agile transformation. To me, that was, I don't think you would get that event anywhere for free. We had wanted one of the biggest banks in the world to do that team event, and they hands down refused. Well, this event was basically camouflaged, and getting into the event, I found out it was one of these big banks telling us their Agile story, and I would never forget. It was really mind-blowing, and it was really beautiful for me. It was satisfying for the festival as well. Like I said, we had regional and country collaboration, and so we connected, most importantly, we connected Agilists from all across the globe, people that really didn't know how to go about starting an event, you know, contacting people that had been doing it. You know, the collaboration just facilitated the creation of events across the globe, and it was beautiful. The technology also helped us a great deal, I would say. And I must add that at the heart of all we did was being Agile. That's the theme of the festival. We're celebrating 20 years of Agile. And so it was necessary for us to really show that Agile works. And so we were being Agile every step of the way. Thank you.
Scott's got his mic off.
Hey, sorry about Yeah, I think I got them a little bit out of order. Do you want to take the festival program bit and then the technology bit, Carol?
Yeah, sure.
Let me just come down to the next one.
Okay. So the program was truly diverse. We didn't, as long as it was related to or about Agile, I think anything went. And there was a lot of things in that if you got us to a side corner, we probably wouldn't agree with. But actually, we are not the arbiters of truth. This is about community, and the community will vote with their feet. So we just accepted practically everything. There were a few things where people tried to put in paid events or tried to put them in surreptitiously that we found, and spoke to the people and offered them the opportunity of putting in something that was free. I think we got to all recognize that at the time, and probably still now, we're in recovery from one of the worst economic disasters that's ever hit this planet. And so trying to be keep things honest, and everyone doing things for free was quite difficult. But we were all doing it for free as well. And so I think it was a good balance. So going through that, we had a number of patrons who were fascinating people who'd been in Agile for a long time. Some of them had signed the manifesto. And I think this is, it kind of shows what kind of support the whole event had, the whole festival had. But we also had the Agile Dyslexics Party. I'm trying to read that for a good reason. But there's, there were, and obviously we were so excited for the Agile Manifesto rerun, because that was so interesting. And, if we could have been there at the first one, we would have been. And Yuri was fascinating. He ran about 4 or 5 that were so oversubscribed. And in fact, I recently interviewed him for another thing, and he was just overwhelmed at the engagement he got. So I think this is the thing, and there was such a diverse thing. I think the one that really jumps out from there is actually Agile ethics, because I think it's still a problem today. How should we behave as Agilists? Because if I'm a member of the British Computer Society or the ACM, I've got a professional code. Doesn't seem to be professional codes in Agile, and no one is policing Agile. So again, it's a really interesting space, and a lot of these talks are actually available on the archive on YouTube. So if you weren't there, if you didn't get a chance to get to the festival, go along to the archive and see what you can get. And there's absolutely loads of Spanish events where everything is in Spanish, because there was a very big take up from South America. They actually did a mini conference of their own, where they put their events into our calendar and into their own calendar. And when you first hear about people doing that, you think, no, it's ours, we own it. But actually, the whole purpose of this is to acknowledge community and to support people in doing their own thing locally. So the minute I realized what was happening, I went to them and said, how can we help you? How can we help you make this amazing? And I think they were quite surprised. But the point here is no one owns Agile anymore. I think there's that sense that someone owns it or that has rights or control over it is long gone. And if we're to allow it to become what it could be, then no one should ever own it again. Sorry, a bit of political there. I'm not going to go into any of the other ones, Scott. Is there?
I think it's probably interesting to go into the technology now.
Okay. So festival technology, I think one of the things we had is that was clear is we had no money. So how do you run a huge festival with no money? So Scott set up a site to start with using Google, and it worked and it did the job. And I think the point here is that to scale that, we had to go to WordPress. There was a number of people that worked on that WordPress site that gave up their time. time materials, apps that we had to buy, calendar that we had to buy, and these were not cheap things. So the calendar was about £3,500. That was fun.
Worst calendar ever.
I know, but the point is, relatively speaking, for what we got, we did quite well. There are other apps that do calendars that are actually more expensive for the number of events we ran through that calendar. There's no way it should have lasted, and near the end, it was buckling under the pressure.
We broke Meetup, remember?
Yeah, we think we broke Meetup because at one point it went offline because we had so many events running through the Meetup we set up.
They removed the calendar feature, so you couldn't see any of our events in the calendar.
Yeah. So I think that we used all these other technologies to avoid actually having to deal with the bandwidth issues and complexity around learning new systems. We tried to adopt what people already knew. And so that our estate, as it were, was actually all external and known systems. So there was no learning curve. But at one point, and later on, we did spend some money on marketing, but we basically built that system for £12, which was the cost of the domain name.
One thing we noticed was in the middle of the project, although the calendar had some problems, we could have probably taken a direct nuclear hit on Edinburgh, and the conference would have continued with nobody noticing.
Yeah, it took over a life of its own, which was fine. That's what we wanted above all else. And as I said, some people created their own sites. There were conferences in their own rights all over the place. There was conferences in London. There was conferences in South America. There was conferences in Africa, and that was fine. That's exactly what we wanted to do, and the impetus is always there to say, share what knowledge you have and let's see what comes of it. So it was very exciting. £12 for a conference is not bad.
Worth every penny. Okay. Right. What are we on now? Which slide page is that?
So these are the stats. I'll do this as well because I had to draw these down from various different analytics programs we were using. So these stats are a mixture of the marketing stats and the website stats, bearing in mind we had two different websites. I think the thing is that we did really take this on in an agile sense. We pivoted when it wasn't suitable anymore. We changed the focus of the organization. We changed the focus of the website as we needed to. So we reached about 2 million plus people in terms of the messages, right? And about 80,000 social media engagements. That's clicks, likes, and that sort of stuff, or reshares, which is quite huge. 809 actual events on our calendar, 955 submissions with 85 ambassadors globally. But again, 140 countries. But again, as I say, we had for London, we had one event in our calendar that was 40 actual talks. And we didn't try and control or measure that, but we just wanted it to be. It was in the spirit of the whole thing. We did raise some money from people's gifts, and we spent 1,800 of the 2,400. I think the thing that inspires me the most is 19 languages. I think when we started to get events coming from Nepal and Peru and these sort of places, and you're going, wow, at one point we were thinking we'd be happy with like 20 events in the UK. Our engagement and involvement with it was exponentially affected by the ambassadors, by the people who later became trustees, basically the operations unit for the festival, and everyone just put their hearts and souls into it. 80,000 hours is probably low, and we did get a lot of engagement from Russia, which was really exciting. I think that's we tried to engage with academia in the US and academia in Europe, nothing. But in Russia, they're all excited about it and got involved and ran workshops, and I think that's really interesting. I think, yeah, well, I don't know why, but I'm fascinated by it. Let's see what happens next, because there's more to come.
Excellent, 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 excellent. How exciting. Okay, success stories. Do you want to take this one, Grace? We've kind of gone off the list.
Sure. We had quite a number of success stories. It's really mind-blowing how it just all started from discussion, like as Scott said earlier, and everybody around the world has been affected in one way or another. I don't think we can quantify, like I said, there's no means to measure the number of success story, how the impacts and the, how far-reaching the impact has been. But we see what has happened in South America, the conversation there, mind-blowing. They had the highest number of events. We have Africa, where you have basically in appointing ambassadors in Africa, we focused on Agilists that were actually on ground in Africa, because we know a number of Agilists, African Agilists, are actually abroad, either in the UK, Canada, or US, or Australia. And we had little of them on ground in Africa. And so we wanted Agilists that are really coming up in Africa, those fresh voices, to really take up this course and begin to, spread the word. And they did it brilliantly. The ambassador from Tanzania, even though at the start of the festival, she gave birth, but she still did her event. And while she was doing the event, she had, people, organizations come up to her and say, can you keep doing this? We will sponsor. And it was just beautiful to behold. We had success stories from Vietnam. You can hear what happened in Nepal. We had an ambassador from Bangladesh that was really G3 as to how, how to start an event, how to host an event. I realized quite a number, some ambassadors are actually new voices, have a number of certifications, but how to go about being Agilist, how to really be in the space, there's a disconnect. And so thanks to the trustee board, the team, Scott, Carl, and everybody, we came up with an ambassador's guide, and it really helped. We thought it was really not helping because we weren't getting feedbacks, but it really helped them. It went a long way in helping the ambassadors as to how to set up events. And we had events in Arabic, an event from Egypt as well. The Society of Agilists in Egypt, they later hosted an event, and it was in Arabic. It was really beautiful. We have the ambassador from Zambia, who is also a new voice, and it would really blow your mind what she's really doing now in Zambia, bringing prom.org, bringing all these certifying bodies, bringing people to come have talks in Zambia and to really grow the Agile community. It was really hard for her at the start. Even getting PMI Africa on board was most of them really didn't have Agile certifications, even though they had a really G3, seeing they probably they may have been intimidated by the big names out there. Most of them didn't want to talk side by side. Scott Ambler, it was the same for most other speakers we had at an event with Scott Ambler, but it was, the confidence grew, and we even saw an event from Taiwan. So you can't really quantify. It's been huge, it's massive, and people are really waiting for the seedling we're going to present to them after Agile20Reflect, and it's just wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, my favorite story is someone missed seeing Obama to come to one of the events. No, to Biden. I don't know who that was.
Wow. That was me, Brianna.
she even sent me a clip of Biden in her office. Okay, so one of the biggest questions we had all the way through this was, and again, this is a little Agile thing. Focus on your one release, your MVP. We were clear we were going to have a 1 month festival, and also clear the fact that we were really tiring people out. So everyone kept saying, "What's next?" So rather than running into something next, or rather than saying, well, we'll do we'll make this an annual thing or any commitment. One of the things I said to everyone was, let's have a consultation as a community, and let's look at the different kind of things that we would each like to do, and imagine that the festival was like a dandelion, and each of the things coming out of the festival, each of the kind of passion projects coming out of there, we'll work out how to run it as an ecosystem. We'll use all the networks and the connections and everything else to help. And we can grow new things beyond the festival. So it's not just a case of we're a free online festival. What else could we be? And that's really, really exciting. And it's got huge potential in it. So we came up with Access Agile. Carl came up with the name. We were kind of kicking names around. One of the things that that really realized to me as we came out, Kierkegaard, the philosopher, said, "You live your life forward and you understand it backwards." Okay. So for me, this is all about access. All the things that Grace has been talking about is access. All the systems enablement and everything else, all have been about access, and all of the kind of bypassing the kind of the name culture that Carl talked about, and creating this more flatter, egalitarian structure. Yeah, all great. So we decided to do Access Agile. How are we for time, Gail? Okay, cool. Right, and we were quite exciting. Like 1 hour before this call, we just had the first Access Agile Scrum of Scrums, because we've decided this isn't one organization anymore; it's multiple organizations. Carl, do you want to take us through the seedlings that are growing, that we're manuring at the moment?
So there's sort of 5 different parts of Access Agile. There's a foundation, because we think that there is something here that is at the heart, which is about education and the betterment of humanity, and that's not a business. That's very much about a charity in supporting people. We know that the festival brought a lot of people joy, and so we know that there's a lot of people who took part, and there's a lot of people who missed out. And so there's a festival group that are now looking at how can we continue that and continue to give opportunities, but also continue to learn, however it may be. And I'm not sure that it'll be a 1 month festival again. Maybe it will in another 10 years. But I'm just, the thing is that it's a discussion, and the people that are in the last festival don't own the future of Access Agile. It's, there are no trustees of Access Agile yet, and I'm not sure that if there will be, I don't know. But the point is that we want to be evolving and we want to be responsive. So it's open to anyone who wants to get involved, the same as Agile20Reflect was. There's a learning library, because we now have a massive resource of materials from the events calendar. We don't have everything, but it's still a massive amount of content, and it's really, really interesting stuff. There's a mixture of retros and future thinking, and some of the future thinking stuff hasn't landed yet. It will affect Agile in the future, and it will affect how everyone works. And I definitely suggest you trawl through and have a look there to see what's there already. There's the community, because I think once we get through COVID, but even now we need people. It's one of the things that I think we've recognized most of all through these entire times is actually we can't do this alone, and we need to have people to bounce things off and to seek rationalization around what we're doing. This is again a discussion, but we know that they already have about 15 volunteers who want to be involved in setting up a community. And it's a fascinating thing, because for me, I spent 17 years avoiding the Agile community because I disliked all the fighting. I didn't want to be part of the fighting. I would like to be able to be involved. I mean, I met Gail through trying to set up an event, and she'd volunteered to be a speaker, and I didn't know her before. And she said what she was interested in talking about, and it kind of aligned with what I was interested in the subject area. So this is how we have this connection. It's nothing to do with me searching her out online. It was at that point in time, and I think there's lots of those points in times where we need those kinds of connections. And the last one is the Access Agile Innovation Forum, and that's the one I'm facilitating. I'm not leading it. I'm facilitating it because I'm fascinated by the fact that there's so many things in Agile that we have kind of an implicit view of, but actually we're not sure how it actually works. So it's lots of implied behaviors, lots of implied actions. And I have this saying that I really quite like, is that I really want to focus on launching out into the shallows.
Yeah.
Because we need to experiment. We need to try and understand better how we can help people work. And that's the purpose of the Innovation Forum. And there's about 5 or 6 ideas that are being worked on at the moment by various different people, from looking at Agile ROI. Someone says they've worked out how to do it. I'm going, great, show us. And they've been doing this, they've been working this way for 2 or 3 years. Someone else has worked out how to get sentiment analysis in a retro to optimize teams across 50, 60 scrums. That's fascinating. Is it arrived? No, not yet. But the point is that we want to help and encourage people who are in the early stages of thinking about things. Yes, you can challenge the status quo because there isn't one. So let's see what we can achieve. And I think this is the opportunity in Access Agile is there is no end point. So we're totally open to where we can go with it, and also who can be involved and how it can evolve.
The other thing is we're going to keep the principles from the festival because we found there's a lot of utility in it. So imagine an Agile innovation group that aren't trying to make money out of it. So we're not changing the story point card so they've got a different count so I can have a priority pack. I'm not going through a safe slide deck that 1 minute's talking about sprints, the next minute's talking about iterations, because iteration is the term we use for sprints, because that's in our framework. Yeah. Imagine if nobody tried to own any of this, and we just tried to build on it.
Yep.
What could we do?
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. And I just wanted to add a couple words just about my experiences with the festival, since we've got a couple of minutes here. Originally I was introduced to you, I think, from Scott Ambler, and I think it was earlier on, and I was fighting some personal fires with COVID, et cetera. And I think I finally connected with you a little bit later in December, both Carl and Scott. And then Carl, I was really very impressed with how you really got me connected, I think, with the right pairing. I really thought, Dr. Stephanie Puckett was great to share the space with, although our styles were a little bit different, but I thought it was a really good pairing, and it really did help motivate me and kind of help me move out of my my COVID slump, so to speak, that we were all in. And I think it really helped launch Agile forward in 2021, and getting us out of this tough period or this dark period in our lives, and really just staying on point with what's next for Agile. And I know some regions are still in dark periods, like India right now is where the US was a year ago, unfortunately. And so I think we're still getting out of this mess, but really having something like this was really a very bright spot for me. So I just wanted to thank all of you really for your contributions, and also for, allowing me to speak. And if you were ever to do another event again, and you got me earlier on, I would be happy to participate. So just
well there will be. Anurag's taking that over. They've got current plans. It's not an if, it's a when. And again, if you click the link on the website to that, there'll be things. But there'll be another general call out, for requests. I think the really exciting thing is the foundation piece, and I just like Grace to maybe put a little bit of flesh on the bones on that one, because that one is just the it only got released an hour ago, the paperwork.
Hey,
Sure.
thank you, Scott. Yeah, like always, we always do paperwork first. We ask ourselves why we want an Agile foundation. Was it really necessary? And we really found it to be necessary, absolutely necessary. And while doing the paperwork for the foundation, Scott helped me. I never knew the ambassador for Brazil was really doing something really great in Brazil. It's called Jornada Colaborativa, and it's all about really taking Agile to the length and breadth of Brazil. And so I told the ambassador, we're really impressed with what you're doing, and so we're taking it global. And so what the foundation actually intends to do or wants to do is to really take Agile, make Agile global, really global in every sense of the word. We want to remove those barriers, the barriers that have existed 20 years ago, from 20 years till now, the barriers that has prevented a lot of people in almost every region of the world from really accessing Agile. We want to have a hub of mentors. We want to have a hub of coaches. We want to do books. We want to do a podcast. We want to get people at the table. We want to take Agile to governance. We want to really do this, but we want to really do it for free. And so we want Agile to transform lives, transform communities. We want to remove the barriers that prevents women from really becoming leaders in Agile, that has really kept them from really taking the lead in Agile. We want to change the narrative. We want to really break it down and take it to the regions, just like we did with the festival. We want to give the regions the control. We want to give the countries the control. We want them to form teams. We want them to bring people that really want to make the world a better place. Agile20Reflect put smiles on the faces of people around the world at a dark time in world history. We want to I have a number of people in my region that have contacted me. They want to be Agilists. They really want to know what Agile is. They really want to get trained. And I don't want to bust their bubbles and tell them you need some certain kind of amount to get certified, to get a seat at the table, to really understand the nitty-gritty of Agile. So I want to see Agile in education in my region. I want to see Agile in small businesses in Asia. We see businesses springing up everywhere in Asia and really taking over and transforming economies. We want to see Agile in education. I had to bring the number of people that contacted me also during the festival, and I directed them to events that were really focused at Agile in education. It's mind-blowing what we can do with Agile. I've seen it. Agile was able to transform my mindset, and I'm a better person today. I really never liked the controlling environment. I wanted an environment where we could collaborate. I most importantly see Agile being able to transform governments. I have been going through Scott Ambler's documents on Agile for federal government, and I really believe that's the next step, is the next level, it's what we should be looking at. We should be looking at governments that will really not hold on to power too much, government that will really give back the power to the people. Let the people determine what they want. Let governance be for everybody, not just for those in places of authority, people that no, let's get Agile to them. Let's speak Agile. Let's be Agilists. Let's really be Agile. And so by so doing, we're able to transform our communities. Seriously, that's the goal of the foundation, and it's going to be all for free. And we want to get those big organizations to sponsor if we can. We would, as much as we can, we'll draw strategies. We'll call all of you to give us ideas on how to get the money to really do this worldwide. So you all are welcome on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
Well done.
It's a filibuster.
Right, Gail, you can take us home. That's us
yes,
done.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much. Again, like I said, the Agile20Reflect Festival was very transformative for me. I really grew a lot personally from my own presentations, along with just listening to the other ones and having the plethora. And I'm really excited for what's next in terms of what you're doing next. Excited that you have the archives and everything else, and just really excited for what the future holds for you. So once again, thank you all so much for presenting for us today. We will have the recording available for everyone. So with that, once again, thank you, and really appreciate you speaking for my meetup. I think you all did a great job, and again, I would speak for you anytime or help with a future conference. So great. With that, I
Thank
will
you,
go
Gail.
ahead and stop the recording then. Alrighty.